I met God 35 years ago. Before I met God, I did not know at all that God was alive. Sometimes I thought he might exist, and at other times I thought he might not. Instead, I believed in superstitions. Following my mother, I went to fortune tellers and lived my life depending on them. My grandaunt was a shaman, so I often went with my mother to a shaman's house. I watched many shaman rituals and even saw shamans walking on sharp blades. I had no idea who Jesus was or what he had done, and I had absolutely no interest in him. My mother always told me that if you believe in Jesus, your family will be ruined, and I truly believed her words. Because of that, I lived with a heart full of rejection toward Jesus and toward the church. If my younger siblings went to church, I scolded them harshly, saying they were being disobedient to our mother. Whenever someone tried to share the gospel with me, I snapped back sharply and responded coldly, saying that I did not believe in Jesus. At some point, for no clear reason, I began to think deeply about death. Whether I was watching a movie at the theater, washing dishes, lying in my room, or walking down the street, I constantly found myself thinking, why do people have to die? Why can't people live forever? I felt an intense emptiness and meaninglessness in life. At that time, I wanted to go to a Buddhist temple. I wanted to hear the sound of the wooden gong and the chanting of prayers. So I once went to a store to buy a tape. There was no tape available, so I couldn't buy one and returned home. After that, through a grandmother in my neighborhood, I received evangelism from her son and daughter-in-law. She invited me to come visit her house once, so I went. I felt very grateful because she loved and cared for my child so much. They played a tape with the sound of a train. They explained that just as a train has a starting point and a final destination, our lives are like a journey. Since we are sojourners on this earth, and we live and then die, we go either to heaven or to hell. They said we must believe in God and go to heaven where God is. At that moment, part of me thought it would be good to believe. But deep in my heart, a much stronger thought said, still, I won't believe. I also kept thinking, my mother said that if you believe in Jesus, your family will be ruined. Suddenly, although I couldn't see anything, it felt as if something tapped my chest, and words unexpectedly burst out of my mouth. They say you should strike while the iron is hot. I want to go to church today, so please take me to church. Those words came out completely against my own will and contrary to my own thoughts. Even now, when I think about it, it was a mysterious experience. Later, I heard that they had fasted and prayed because they wanted to lead me to the Lord. On Wednesday, March 19, 1980, I went to church for the first time and heard the Word of God. At that time, there happened to be a revival meeting, so I listened to sermons for 3 hours. The preacher shared many interesting stories, and they were so engaging and full of grace that I lost track of time and didn't feel bored at all. I thought to myself, my mother stopped me from going to church all this time, saying our family would be ruined if I went. But it's so wonderful here. She just didn't know. As I listened to the sermon, I felt something strange. There had always been a corner of my heart that felt empty, like a hollow space. But I felt that invisible hole in my heart being filled. Amazingly, the sense of emptiness disappeared. I had mocked and persecuted Christians so much. Yet now, in my heart, I found myself deciding, I don't know who Jesus really is, but I will believe in Jesus and start going to church every Sunday. On Sunday, March 23rd, 1980, I went to church, registered, and became a believer in Jesus. From now on, as I continue attending church, I will share my testimonies of meeting God, the story of hearing God's voice at dawn, the story of seeing Jesus in a dream and hearing his words, the story of seeing demons and directly hearing them speak, the story of realizing I was a sinner and repenting when, during prayer, the sins I had committed from childhood until that moment, sins I myself could not even remember, appeared clearly before me like scenes in a movie. The story of my prayers being opened so that I could pray. The story of receiving God's calling to become an evangelist. and the words God spoke to me while serving as an evangelist. There are so many testimonies that I hesitated for a long time, not knowing where to begin. But because God is truly alive, and because I want everyone to believe in God and go together to that beautiful and wonderful heaven, I have gathered the courage to share my testimony.